We're going to use the definition of the derivative to differentiate cosine of x. And recall, the derivative of a function f prime of x, is defined by the following: limit as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. We'll use the following three preliminary results. The first one, trig identity. Cosine of x plus h is equal to cosine of x times cosine of h minus sine of x times the sine of h. The second result, limit h approaches 0, sine of h divided by h is equal to 1. This was shown in an earlier video, and you should take a look at that whenever you get a chance. The third result is also a limit. It's the limit as h goes to 0, cosine of h minus 1 divided by h. This limit is 0. This limit was shown in the video right before this one. The video is a derivative of the sine function. During the solution, I derived this result, so we'll use those three results. And now let's go back and differentiate cosine of x. We'll do it in 4 steps. The first step is to compute f of x plus h. In our case, it's cosine of x plus h. Let's use that trig identity. It is cosine of x times cosine of h minus sine of x times the sine of h. Step 2, f of x plus h minus f of x. We just did f of x plus h, so let's rewrite it. Cosine of x times cosine of h minus sine of x times sine of h. That's f of x plus h minus f of x, which of course is cosine of x. So this term right here and this one have cosine of x in common. Let's factor it out. And when we do, we have cosine of x times cosine of h minus 1, and then minus sine of x times sine of h. Let's go to step 3. Step 3, we want to write f of x plus h minus f of x and divide that by h. This will give us, from the previous step, cosine of x times cosine of h minus 1 divided by h, and then minus sine of x times sine of h also divided by h. There's nothing more we can do here except go to step 4. Step 4 is where we compute the derivative. So f prime is equal to the limit as h goes to 0, f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. That's the difference quotient, and we have it already from the previous step. Notice that this part, we have cosine of x. It does not depend on h. Therefore, we can put it in front of the limit. Cosine of x times limit h goes to 0, cosine of h minus 1 divided by h, minus, in the second part, sine of x doesn't have an h, so we can factor it in front of the limit, sine of x times the limit h approaches 0, sine of h over h. And that's why we had those two preliminary results. The first one, the first limit involving cosine h minus 1 over h is 0. So that's cosine of x times 0 minus sine of x times the limit h goes to 0 of sine h over h. That's 1. And that's minus sine of x. So we just summarize, we just use the definition of the derivative to show that if f of x is cosine of x, its derivative f prime is minus sine of x. You will need this fact, you'll need this result in many, many problems, not just in Calculus 1, but beyond. For